Good evening, everybody. My name is Cassie Williams, and today I'm going to be teaching a visual learner who is also hearing impaired on how to make staffing assignments for an RN and for PCAs in a hospital. So, at my hospital, we have two floors. There's a ground floor and a first floor. So I'm going to use that as my baseline of staffing. So some things that need to be considered when you're looking at staffing would be the census and number of patients that are in the building. Then you would look at the acuity level of the patient, so how sick they are, how many nurses and nurses' aides you're working with, and then you need to look at spatial awareness of where the rooms are in proximity to one another that you're assigning to this particular nurse or nurse's aide. So what I did was I took a picture approach to this since I'm going to be teaching visual learner. So some things you're going to need are going to be a piece of paper, some writing utensils that are different colors so that we can color code and make everything a little easier to understand and see, and then a list of the rooms of patients and which rooms they're in. So as you can see, I've made a diagram here. So this is laid out just like my hospital. So your 101 would be your first room here, and it wraps around here to 112, and that's the first 1 east hallway. Then you've got the 1 west hallway, which is over this way, 113 through 126. And then when you come downstairs, you go to ground 1 through ground 14, then 15 through 26 on this side. So that's kind of the basic layout of the hospital, so you'd want to make sure that you had this together and ready. The next thing you want to look at is actually putting the patients in their rooms. So as you can see on here, the X's represent the patients and where they're at. Then after you know where all your patients are at, then you can start to look at staffing and see how many nurses you've got. So we've got 40 patients in the building currently, and with 40 patients we qualify for 8 nurses and 6 nurses' aides. So it divides up pretty evenly when you've got upstairs and downstairs, and we've got 20 patients upstairs and 20 downstairs. So we can put 4 nurses upstairs and then 4 nurses downstairs. So the next thing we're going to do is color code. So in order to do this effectively as a charge nurse, you would need to go around to all of the nurses and talk to them about which patients are the sickest. So, and which ones are maybe a little harder to take care of, take a little more time, those kind of things. And then you would also ask about, which patients are a little easier to take care of, maybe are getting close to discharge, a little more independent. So I went around and did that. And so we've got them all labeled here. So we would use these red ones to represent the difficult patients. The ones that take a little bit longer than the green ones would take a little less time. Then I've also got another color here that we could use for blood sugars or different kinds of dressing changes and things. So whatever works best for making your staffing assignments. So the next thing we're going to look at is the proximity that I talked about earlier. So for the nurses, they're each going to get 5 patients since 8 goes evenly into 40. So we're going to split here. Then you've got 5 patients here that this nurse can take care of, and then 5 over here. So we'll split them right there. So it would be 113 through 115, and then also 124 and 126. So same thing on each of the other floors. You could split them in that way. And then for the nurses' aides, it'll be a little more tricky because you're going to have to kind of split them a little bit. So this nurse's aide will have these patients over here, and then this one in the middle would have these 3 patients, and then these 3 patients over here, and then this one would have leftover 7 there. And same thing downstairs, kind of similar based on where the patients are at. So finally, you would write out all of your assignments here, that you've got a census of 40, you've got 8 nurses and 6 nurses' aides, and then you would write out specifically which nurses had which patients, and then same thing for the nurses' aides. I hope this was helpful and helped you to kind of understand how to do staffing from a visual learner perspective. Once again, I would have all those directions written out for the visual learner and the hearing impaired learner to refer back to. Hope you all have a great evening.